Flea Mortals has quickly become my favorite monster book ever, and I don't think I'm alone in that. It takes the best elements of 4th edition combat and figures out how to make them work within the structure of 5e, and it's hard to go wrong with that. There's a lot of good stuff in here, but I'm going to focus on my top 5 favorites. Starting with the Fire Giant Red Fist. Now, all of the giants in this book are really cool, but the one that I like best is the Fire Giant Monk, otherwise known as the Red Fist. Getting close to these guys is dangerous, with potentially taking fire damage and gaining levels of exhaustion depending on what you do when you're nearby. But they can also hurl flame, so they're dangerous from a distance too. And they also have Guardian Block, which I haven't had the opportunity to use at the table, but basically they can spend a reaction to block you from hitting one of their allies and then smack you with an unarmed strike as part of the same move. If that's not adding insult to injury, I don't know what is. But with that, we'll move over to the Voiceless Talker, my number 4 on the list, on page 282. I just love what they've done with the Mind Flayers. I mean, technically it isn't a Mind Flayer, I get that, but come on, we know what this really is. Granted, I'm not a big fan of guns in my fantasy RPGs, so I'll be reflavoring their pistol as a psionic ability, but aside from that, these are a much more fun version of the same trope. They're octopus-headed psychic creatures that just want to eat your brain. Except this version does so in smaller chunks instead of straight up extracting the whole thing at once, and I think the slow burn makes them a lot more interesting overall. With that, we're going to hop over to the Light Thief on page 310 for number 3 on the list. These little critters flip an expectation on its head. Characters with dark vision expect to be able to see in the dark, but this creature threatens to steal that ability away from your players. It's temporary, so it's not like it's a long-term thing, but it's not like a darkness spell where you can just move out of the radius of effect and be able to see again. Their dark vision is completely gone for a full minute when their steal light ability hits, and I can just see the look on players' faces when they realize that their character, who could always see in the dark, is suddenly unable to see. And that's not even taking into account that these creatures love hiding inside light sources, so you don't even see them coming, and they can just be chilling inside your torch until they're ready to come out and bite your eyes out. I mean, I don't know if they're really biting your eyes out, but they're really interesting opponents because they turn an expectation on its head, and I love monsters that are able to do that mechanically in the game. Number 2 on my list, I'm certain that I'm not going to say correctly, but I'm going to give it my best shot. It's one of the dragons called Cledrath? I have no idea if that's the right pronunciation, but it's fantasy and it's close enough. All the dragons in this book are amazing, and they don't bother with the little ones, except for like a dragonette or so. But the dragons that they do have in here are amazing, and they're huge. They're the kind of dragons that you'll probably not encounter until the climactic battle at the end of your campaign, but for that purpose, they are absolute beasts. My favorite of the bunch is Cledrath. Not the strongest one of the bunch, but I'm a sucker for shadow dragons, and well, this is one of the most fun sets abilities I've seen on a shadow dragon maybe ever. He can turn into a shadow and teleport. He's got a breath weapon made of dark energy that deals a combo of acid and necrotic damage that ignores damage resistance, and even its claw bite routine has special abilities, moving you around as he batters you and extinguishing your light sources that you might be carrying. Now that I think about it, his lair might be an interesting place for a swarm of light thieves to be hanging out, but that's a decision to be made far in the future. And in the meantime, we've got to get to my number 1 creature in this book, and that is the Queen. On page 131, we have Queen Barnot. Now, this goblin leader is no slouch. I mean, she might be a little bit of a slouch in that she's a consummate lazy leader. She does have a couple of attack options, but her real power is in summoning and directing her henchmen. Hench goblins? I don't know, whatever. Rather than doing the work herself, she can do things like summon more goblins or command her minions to move and attack without using their own action economy. And maybe my favorite, she has a reaction called No Dying, where she literally tells a goblin that it's not allowed to die. And when you attack it and take it to 0 hit points, she denies that kill and leaves it with 1 hit point instead. It's almost like she's getting back every half-orc player whose DM thought they had knocked them down for the rest of the fight, only to realize that they were hopping right back up with 1 hit point. And nobody even cast Healing Word. Ridiculous. But anyway, that's my favorites in this one.